respond briefly to some of your points since while you're here? Yeah, so yeah, we very much want to do this kind of assessment. The problem is partly the extensions of this that you said for other types of crops. The main constraint right now is the status of these biophysical crop models, that they haven't been developed as well. So the economic model, we've now incorporated almost all the crops. We don't have quinoa, but we have almost all the legumes, roots and tubers, and many other of the so-called second crops. So we can do this in principle, but we're working on ways and working with like University of Florida, University of Georgia, who are some of the big developers of these models, to try to get calibrated models for these other crops too. The other really tricky one that you mentioned is very important, is the farming system. So again, right now these kinds of models, crop models, do not handle farming systems, but there we've already started a project to work on trying to develop ones that can utilize those kinds of effects. So we're trying to go for that as well. And that, everything else you said, I fully agree with on the mixed farming systems, the need to go back in and explore the gene banks that we have already to get land races, and also to identify effective genes from those, both to plant them themselves, but also effective genes that can be used in plant breeding programs as well. So biodiversity also is one which it would be great to be able to look at in this kind of framework as well. So thanks very much for those comments.
Maybe I'll just say two things since we'll go in order, and I'll leave Sylvester the longest to think about what he wants to say. I just wanted a couple of comments on Richard's presentation and the issue of policies. I mean, one of the things we're finding with the Seeds for Needs program, in a lot of countries, is, the mentality of many gene bank managers is that they run safe deposit boxes, that you take the genes, you put them in there, and you save them for something sometime, because we know we're going to need them. And what we see, and what we're actually as sort of a side benefit, we hope, of this program, is actually getting the gene bank managers to understand that they should be operating more like savings and loan associations rather than sort of safe deposit boxes, where they're actually trying to get material that's useful out to farmers. And we were coming back from, I opened a community seed bank when I was here earlier this week, and we were riding back with the head of the Ethiopian Biodiversity Institute. And he was explaining they had just changed their name from the Biodiversity Conservation Institute to the Biodiversity Institute, because they wanted to get beyond this thinking that their only role was around conservation and that it was also around sustainable use. So I think this is another important sort of set of policies and mentalities maybe that needs to change. We would also hope to see perhaps some lower regulatory hurdle rates on some of the varieties that are already existing in countries' gene banks than there might be on some of the new improved varieties that countries may have more regulatory systems in place. And then the final point, in our new strategy, we're targeting improving seed systems in developing countries, and I think we need to begin more and more to think about seed systems as a continuum from the formal sector through a sort of an intermediate sector to an informal sector. And those three things are going to continue to sort of coexist for quite a while. I mean, even now, only about 20% of the seeds that farmers use are, coming out of the formal sector. But we've been ignoring the informal sector, focusing a lot of attention on the formal side. But farmers who are using that informal sector need quality assurance, and they need reliable seed multiplication systems. And I think this is an area that's been sort of neglected in our research and neglected in our policy work. So, thanks.
I won't talk long because I think it's important to leave some time for some questions and answers. But one big constraint that I do see in the application of the modelling work that Mark and his team are involved in, and I've been interacting with them quite a bit, is there's a real lack of good agronomic research going on now. Agronomy seems to be one of those disciplines that's been ignored. And for example, if you look at the DSAP models, they don't actually model any nutrient apart from nitrogen and phosphorus. Well, increasingly in Africa, you've had soils that have been cultivated now for probably close on 100 years, and you're seeing all sorts of nutrient deficiencies like sulfur, zinc, boron emerging. And unless we have some good agronomic research that is done to really help provide the fuel for his models, I think we're really going to be stuck. So I would exercise a bit of caution. And of course, Mother Nature is always a huge, creative, innovative monster out there. And as much as you can do your agronomic trials, you'll always find things like striga and other things coming in there. We don't really understand very well the interactions between many of these things yet. So we have to keep our options open.
Sylvester, any quick words, and then we'll turn it to the audience.
Just a quick words to Mark. I'm wondering if you could have in that model where you could look at some community, some of these options that are available, to put them into package and see what will be the response, so that when you want to promote them, as we think I just proposed, then you can say, well, if you have this, you have this. This is the level of improvement you are going to have, rather than maybe going with ISFM alone or going with no-till alone.
Yeah, in fact, we've done some of that kind of analysis in the paper. So we combined them. We tended not to find like huge synergies nor huge, say, crowding out, but it tends to be a bit linear. But there are some that do generate more together than the sum of the parts, and then there's some others that don't match the sum of the parts. So yeah, we've done a little bit of that. But it'd be good also to do these downscaled, even to go into say a region you all are working in.
Right.
And do that kind of modeling and get at some of the other agronomic details that Richard was talking about as well.
Okay, since I need to leave in 5 minutes and I want to open this up for questions, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and I'm going to sit in the audience as long as I can. So,
Thanks, Ann. Thank you.